Today, class, we are going to talk about pencils and all the things that they can do. So what pencils are used for? They are used for drawing, like we do in here, drafting, like Mr. Martin teaches, and writing. And that is a drawing of a light bulb. It looks like a photograph, but it is not. So what pencils are made of and what type of pencils there are. Pencils, what's in them is not lead. Lead is poisonous. Instead, it's graphite, which is a type of mineral, and it's mixed with a little bit of clay and then baked until it is strong enough to make marks with, but still soft enough to leave a mark. And then if you have a wooden pencil, the pencil casing is wood, and today you have a resource video that's short and fun about how pencils are made. Mechanical pencils are plastic or metallic casing, and those are these. You have the automatic pencils where you just click it, and then the clutch pencils you load with the lead. In this class, for most drawing, I would like for you to use a wooden pencil. And the reason why is when you shade and add value in some of the lines that you'll use, you need to press down and get things really, really dark. And if you're using a mechanical pencil, that is really hard on the pencil. It breaks the lead very quickly, and you'll have to buy a lot of lead. And it's hard to get dark with those. That's why mechanical pencils are used for things like drafting, architecture, things where you just need to write lightly and where you can erase it and change it if you need to. And then the regular wood pencils are used for drawing and writing, and it used to be taking tests. So how it works: the graphite rubs off on the surface. This is the graphite part. And then the surface is down here, the paper, and it leaves a mark. It's a handheld tool. When you have a wooden pencil, you sharpen it to get the point back. And if you have a mechanical or lead pencil, you forward the lead or you replace it as you go. There are different varieties of pencils. These are drawing pencils. You will work with these in class later when we have studio at school, or you might have your own set. You really don't need them for Art 1. A regular number 2 pencil does everything. But just so that you know, if it is an H, and the numbers on pencils are on their sides, and all pencils have a number or a letter, H is hard graphite. That means that it is harder, it's sharp, it's very light, and the H part starts here, kind of towards the middle, and then as you increase, it gets extremely light. When you're up to 6 or 9, H is the hardest. An HB is a medium pencil. In the United States, it's called a number 2. Your Ticonderogas, if you look at the side where it says soft, and then underneath it, it has both HB and 2. That's because these are sold both in the United States and in Europe. If your pencil has a B, that means graphite is soft and it's darker. And the higher the number, the darker it is. So the B is a little darker than the HB. 2B is medium, then 4B, and then 6B gets really, really dark. The thing about soft pencils, though, is that when you use them, you tend to use them up quickly because they use a lot of lead. The properties of pencils: luminance is how much light something has. And luminance, there's transparent, translucent, and opaque. So to understand that, a window is transparent. You can see through it. It doesn't change. A light shade is translucent. It lets light through it, but you can't see the bulb. And then opaque is like a wall. You can't see through it. With pencils, you can go from translucent to opaque. The more pressure you put on and the darker you get with that soft graphite, it's not only opaque, but it develops a dark metallic reflective surface. The stability, it's unstable. It can be easily smeared, erased, and it can require fixative. Pencil is made to be temporary, and that's why it's unstable, and because it basically just sits on the paper. It doesn't bond with the paper, and if you want it to last forever, you have to spray it with a fixative. The least expensive and easiest fixative to use is hairspray, and the Dollar Tree variety is just fine. Hairspray is basically spray glue, and what that will do to your drawing is it will glue the graphite down so it won't smear. But you have to stand away from it when you spray because you don't want to get a big blob of hairspray on it. And I'll show you how to do that in class. Techniques with using pencils. Angle is how you hold it. And you can see the images of the hands. The more upright you hold a pencil, so it's like 90 degrees to the paper, you get a thinner line and more precise points. If it's slanted, you get some really broad, soft areas, and that's good for shading. Pressure is applied force. It's how hard you press down on it. If you don't press very hard, you have a light line. So if you wanted to draw something very lightly, you would have your pencil not a lot of pressure and holding it very upright. Heavy pressure is dark lines. So if you're shading or making something dark, hold it down closer to the paper and press really, really hard, and it will get very dark. Friction is contact with the paper. So if you smudge, that's intentional smearing the pencil. On the right here, this is a tertullian, and it's a tool that's used for smudging. Basically, it's just rolled up paper that's kind of pressed together. You can use a tissue or a paper towel or another piece of paper or your finger. It depends on what effect you want, and you just kind of experiment and see what they do. Masking is when you protect your paper with a shield. When you're drawing, if you don't want something to smear, you just put a piece of paper on top of it, or if you want a really sharp line, put a piece of paper on top to protect your white area, and then you can draw and work without damaging that. When you erase things, you use friction to remove mistakes or lighten areas by picking up the graphite with an eraser, because the graphite isn't bonded with the paper. And to clean your eraser, you take your eraser and you rub it against a hard, rough surface, like a piece of wood or a stone or a brick or something like that. And that will crumble away the dirty parts and leave you with a clean eraser. This is something that you don't need to know how to do, but there are different pencil grip postures that you can learn to do when you're an artist for different effects. Some are comfortable, some are not so comfortable. Now, troubleshooting is always important when using tools because sometimes things go wrong. Remember that hard pencils have sharp points, and that means they will scar the paper. They leave an indentation, so even if you erase sometimes, there will still be a line there. If you get pencil on your clothes, use a clean eraser to remove as much as possible. And then before you wash it, put some detergent, your washing soap, and a small amount of ammonia on it, and it will take the pencil off. Especially when we get to shading later, you will discover that if you're not careful and you're wearing clothes, it gets all over the forearm of your clothes, the part between your elbow and your hand. Stabilize your drawing, fix it with hairspray, spray it so it doesn't smear unintentionally. dirty eraser, just told you about. If you don't have a pencil sharpener, you can sharpen a pencil with sandpaper or a nail file. Those emery boards that are kind of sandpapery. And then if your pencil isn't sharpening correctly, where you have like the graphite showing on one side, but the other side is all wood, you're probably not holding it steady. You have to hold it horizontal and steady and sharpen it. If it's a poor quality pencil, it won't sharpen well. Core lock pencils sharpen evenly. That's why we like Ticonderogas. Sometimes they don't, but usually the way they're made is a little different from your regular pencils because they're not sandwiched, they're drilled. And they tend to be even when they sharpen, and they tend to keep a point better too. They don't break as much. Okay, safety. Don't stab people with pencils. It's not going to get them. It's not lead and it won't poison you, but you could still get an infection. And sometimes people that get a pencil mark in them when they're little, that mark is like there forever. And then if you ever get a pencil in your eye, don't pull it out. You cup it and seek help. And cupping it means you take a paper cup and put a hole in the middle of the bottom of the paper cup, and then slide that paper cup over the pencil and hold it on to their eye so the pencil doesn't wiggle around. That's just good to know, whether it's anything, whether it's a pencil or a tree limb or anything that is stuck in a person. Never try to pull it out, stabilize it, and get help. Pulling it out causes more damage. Okay, just some cool stuff about pencils. They will write upside down, so they are used in the space station instead of ink. They will write in zero gravity, again, more space station. And they also write underwater. Yellow is a marketing gimmick that was created in 1890 because there was a famous diamond that was yellow instead of clear. And then they were marketing the pencils as being hard as a diamond, and then yellow just kind of stuck. And the yellow pencil color is also associated with school buses and school, so it all just ended up going together. If you are in Europe, your pencils do not have erasers. Drawing pencils, the H's and the B's, they do not have erasers either. You have to have an external eraser. Okay, that is it for the toolkit. Review it if you need to. You have a quiz on it, and so take your quiz. You can take it over and over until you get a